welcome. This is Mitch Minglana, and I will discuss how to ace the exam. The purpose of this video is to enlighten the students on how to effectively study during their exams, quizzes, and etc. And this will definitely help you ace your exam. So let's begin. We believe that one cannot really process anything without focus or attention. Lack of focus or concentration will destroy everything, and that includes your future. Due to the rapid advancement in technology, we, especially the young ones, are the most affected ones. Yes, technology may bring us good because it will help us finish our work conveniently and easily. But in spite of that, challenges are very high. One is distractions to any forms of social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and many more. The moment we unlock our devices, that's the time that we get distracted because we spend too much time on technology rather than doing our schoolworks. So if one cannot really handle how to manage, then that is really a big problem. In the first video, it talks about how our brain processes the information. If we have multiple things to do, our brain cannot do 2 or 3 things at the same time. Do you know why? There is a psychology professor from the University of Michigan, David Mayer, studies the effects of divided intentional learning, takes a firm line on the brains to do multitask. So under the most condition, the brain simply cannot do 2 complex tasks at the same time. It can only happen where the 2 tasks are both very simple and when they don't compete with each other for the same mental resources. Let's say, for instance, folding laundry while listening to a weather report on a radio. That is fine. But listening to a lecture while texting or doing homework and being on Facebook, each of these tasks are very demanding, and each of them uses the same area of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. See, it is really hard to do multitask. The best way that I can give you an advice is to do one at a time. And I've been using this line as a motivation when things become super hectic. I always believe that when you give focus and concentration to what you are doing, you will definitely finish it as long as you don't get distracted or over nonsense things or stuffs. Do one at a time.
In the first video, it showcased there about the negative outcomes that occurs when the student multitasks while doing schoolworks. First, takes time to complete the assignment or many distractions. It really takes much time to complete and finish the assignment, especially when you get distracted. Try to think this way. If I can do my assignment first without browsing social media, I can finish this immediately compared to when you browse social media and doing your assignment at the same time. It won't work because you're just wasting your time. Second is mental fatigue. Mental fatigue occurs when it's triggered to prolonged cognitive activity. Basically, it sends your brain into overdrive, leaving you exhausted. So mental fatigue makes it hard to pay attention or focus on a task, like we feel that it takes more time to finish one assignment. I believe we experienced this because in my case, I did and experienced this. It's hard because you cannot do anything because you feel like your mind is empty or you're super stressed, which tend you to think nothing. I think the best way for this is to feed your mind with positivity because I believe that what you put into your mind, either negative or positive, it will really reflect. So be positive and do not think that you cannot finish the task. Do it one at a time. Third is subsequent memory. Fourth, distractions by other technology forms allows our brain to process different information which will lead to unfocus of the schoolworks. Our brain works best when it is deep focused in only one thing with no distraction. In the video, it showcases that in order to have deep focus, it mentioned the technique called Pomodoro. This technique is very simple, and if you apply this in your studies or doing tasks, it will improve your focus and work tremendously. Pomodoro is about setting time when you do your task without any single piece of distraction. The original time of Pomodoro is studying 25 minutes and 5 minutes for break. But this doesn't the case for all. Maybe some may spend for about 25 to 40 minutes depending on what you want. A person is differ from other person. Some may like to study in the morning or what we call the morning person. Some is evening or during dawn. Moreover, the video explains or suggests that do not study for straight 1 hour without taking a break. Taking a break is very important to relax and chill your mind for a little bit because without it, you will definitely get exhausted and stressed.
There are two modes that our brain operates. One is the focus mode and the other one is the diffuse mode. The focus mode is where our brain is gaining new knowledge and our conscious brain is entirely occupied by the task at hand. So meaning focus mode is just a more clarified version of do not disturb. Meaning you wanted to give attention to what you are doing without any distraction. Let's say for instance, you want to answer your assignments in the evening. So when you set your mind on something, you will not be distracted by other things. Instead, you focus. The second mode is what we call the diffuse mode. It is where we are at a relaxing state and not focusing attentively on something particular. Diffuse thinking, on the other hand, looks at a big picture. Unlike focused thinking, diffuse thinking is all about distractions. It happens when you let your mind wander freely and making connections at random. The diffuse mode of thinking does not happen in any one area of the brain, but rather all over. In fact, that is the beauty of diffuse thinking. Your brain has the opportunity to connect the dots and the link neutral processes. Usually, diffuse thinking happens as you do other things. That's why taking a shower or going for a run or take a break from a study can actually lead to an important breakthrough. While your conscious mind is relaxed, your brain is able to form a creative solution to a problem or finally link ideas that had been eluding you. Both types of thinking can be used to train the brain on a topic. They simply do so differently. To illustrate this point, consider a flashlight. You can have a concentrated beam of light that only illustrates a small area very brightly, or you can have a less concentrated beam that illuminates a much broader area with a dimmer light. So with focused thinking, your brain processes very specific information deeply, but with diffuse thinking, the brain analyzes much more information at once but in less depth. Just like both flashlights, you will take out of the dark, but modes of thinking will help you understand a subject matter. Which one will work better for you simply depends on whether you want to see the big picture or small details. Procrastination is an active process where we choose to do something else instead of the task that we know that we should be doing. Cramming is an emergency test preparation strategy that involves an attempt to absorb copious amounts of information in a short period prior to an exam. Cramming is a memorization technique that only lasts for a short term. So for long-term retention of material, it is really recommended that students should practice an active learning and critical thinking through discussions, individual thinking, and studying in groups. As a student, it is really important to set time for studying. If you want to achieve your dreams, then set the plan and think of a process. So when you study, it should be in a continuous process. Don't break the chain. So in order for you not to break the chain, here are the 4 ways. Number 1, define your target and the reward. Think what you want to accomplish, and when you achieve it, do not forget also to reward yourself. It's kind of fulfilling when you get what you want, like passing the exam. You reward yourself to compensate for the hardship you go through during your study session just to pass the exam. Second, do something every day to reach that target. Let's say for instance, you want to get a high score in your quiz exam. You need to study or to spend time studying of at least 30 minutes every day to lessen the coverage because if you study before the exam, which is we call cramming, there is always a tendency that you experience mental block because you process everything or you process lots of information in just a single day. It is effective for most, but after the exam, you forget what you study, like the information was not retained in your head. So it is really good if you gradually study the topics every day to retain the information. And I believe this is effective because I tried this many times and I hope it will be the same for you. Third is to put a calendar in front of you and put an X mark on each day you achieve something. And then the last is to reward yourself for everything that you do.
Have you ever experienced thinking what would be the outcome of this and that, and you are scared of it? So let's say for instance, your exam is coming too soon and you really need to study, but all you have in your mind is the outcome or the result, like what if I fail? You tend to focus on the outcome rather than the process. If you think that way, it will affect your brain and cause stress and nervous. So here are the negative aspects on focusing in outcome. First, we lost sight of the growth and process made along the way. And second, we neglect to create a strategic system or process that will lead to success. The solution to these negative aspects is to change our mindset. So rather than focusing on the outcome, you have to focus on the process by trying your best. Now is the Pareto principles. Helps you realize that the majority of results comes from a minority inputs. In the video, it showcases the 80 to 20 rule. There are a number of practical applications for the 80 to 20 rule in diverse areas such as the distribution of wealth in economics, quality production control, business sales, and growth. The 80 to 20 rule was invented by Vilfredo Pareto in Italy in 1906. According to legend, Pareto, an economist, noticed 20% of the pea pods in his garden provided 80% of the peas. He then determined 20% of the population in Italy owned 80% of the land. The use of the 80 to 20 rule has since expanded beyond the alleged humble beginnings in Pareto's garden. In education, the 80% of the discipline problems come from roughly 20% of the student body. The Pareto principle suggests that a few things produce the majority of results. So you need to find out what is vital, ignore what is trivial, and you can maximize results. Now, in active learning is a student-centered approach in which the responsibility for learning is placed upon the student, often working in collaboration with classmates. In active learning, teachers are facilitators rather than one-way providers of information. Next is note-taking. Taking notes does not mean writing down every word you hear. You need to actively decide what is important and how it's related to what you already know, and then decide what to write down. Note-taking is very important because you retain the information in your brain. I did this all the time. Every time I study, I always had a notebook and a pen beside me because I will take the most important parts of the topic, and believe me, it is really beneficial because the moment you write, the brain processes it and will really retain the information in your mind.
Why is note-taking important? Number 1, it keeps you awake. Note-taking forces you to pay attention and helps you focus in class. Second, it helps you learn. Studies on learning have shown that actively engaging with a topic by listening and summarizing what you hear helps you identify and remember the information later. Third, it helps you keep a record. You were physically in a math class last Tuesday, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you remember what happened or what might you hear on a quiz. Notes are a record of what you learned in class and what you need to review. Fourth, note-taking helps you in your study. Review your notes regularly to get the most out of them. You can use them to make up sample test questions or even turn them into digital flashcards. And then the last is, note-taking is a skill that will pay off in college. Are you used to your high school teachers handling an outlines or an emailing copies of their PowerPoint presentations? That's not going to be the case in college. Learn the art of note-taking now to give yourself a leg up later. Memory palace. So what does it mean? Memory palace simply means about the changing your memories into images placed in a familiar mental location. The idea is that you can mentally walk through your palace looking at your memories to recall them. Anki is a program which makes you remembering things easy. Because it's a lot more efficient than traditional study methods, you can either gradually decrease your time spent studying or greatly increase the amount you learn. Anyone who needs to remember things in their daily life can benefit from Anki, since it is a content agnostic and support images, audio, videos, and scientific markup. The possibilities are endless. For example, learning a language, studying for medical and law exams, memorizing people's names and faces, brushing up on a geography, mastering long poems, or even practicing guitar chords.